Hello and welcome to the Big Kickoff with Betfred, your one-stop shop for the best tips and predictions from the Racing Post. Now, we are going to have some fun and some lively debates this season. I've got a feeling it's starting with today as well. Talking top end of the Premier League in the company of the Racing Post's very own football guru, Mark Langdon. Good to see you, Mark.
And you, Scott.
A former teammate of mine in Glen Johnson. John, are you right?
I'm good, mate. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. And a former opponent who I couldn't get close to in Kevin Campbell back in the day. You okay, Kev?
I'm very well, thanks, Scott.
Good. Listen, shortest off-season ever. You had time to do anything at all?
Not really, no. The season's gone on with the European trophies, etc. So just been still working those and doing some of my own personal stuff. And that's been it, to be fair.
Got to pay the bills, Kevin.
Got to pay the bills.
That's why you're here now.
That's right.
Jono, how's the wine going and also the horse breeding as well?
Yeah, it's going all right. Yeah, they're both doing well. Strange times, you know, with no football, no racing and whatnot. But yeah, they're all going in the right direction, so no complaints from my end. Good.
Okay, well, let's touch on last season, shall we, in the Premier League, Mark? And a season like no other, wasn't it? With the coronavirus, the break, no fans, a very strange one.
It was, yeah, and strange for a lot of punters who put Manchester City in their accumulators and expected them to sort of, you know, be strong favourites and to go on to win the Premier League. There was also, I think, surprises with somebody like Sheffield United, who were the favourites to be relegated. When was it? Back in August of last year. It feels like so long ago. But you know, there were a lot of surprises, and I think also I didn't expect to see Watford be relegated. So yeah, and there'll probably be some more this year as well.
Glenn, how did you feel that the players dealt with the no fans and what happened since the restart?
I think they all struggled in the first sort of 2 or 3 games, like I reckon we all would have done. But it was obviously all strange. But they was all going through similar scenarios. But I think it was more the fitness levels that started, because afterwards the football was quite good. And then I think as fans we ended up getting used to being no fans in the stadium. You get used to the sort of strange noise. So I think they dealt with it as well as they could, really. We'd all wish it was different, wouldn't we? But it is what it is.
Yeah. What did you make of the quality of the football, Kevin? Was it an exciting end to the season for you?
Yeah, it was exciting end. I thought a lot of the time you realise how much the fans are missed when you actually were watching it. Felt a bit sad at times because, you know, the away team would be getting a lot more stick going to the home games, and the home teams didn't have that boost.
It wasn't a home advantage, was it?
No, it wasn't a home advantage, and that played in the hands of some of the opposition teams. But you know, it is what it is, and we have to get used to it.
Now, Glenn, despite what Mark said about everyone thinking Manchester City, I did actually predict Liverpool, your old club, to win the title, but not by Christmas.
Yeah.
What do you put their dominance down to?
I just think it's obviously they've got the quality in the team, but I think it's how much they're enjoying their football. With what everyone said it over the years, if you get top players that work hard, they're going to be hard to beat. And I think they've got that class. They've certainly got the work ethic, and I think that's why they showed that dominance. And obviously with Klopp, you know, with his smiles and the way he's putting his arm around players, you can see that they're all enjoying it.
Klopp said they were a results machine last season. They certainly were that. I mean, arguably played better football the season before.
Yeah, I think they did churn out, I think, more victories. And there were times, particularly when you say it was won by Christmas, there were times, I remember Aston Villa away from home where they scored 2 late goals. There was a relentlessness about them that, actually, I agree. I think they did play better the year before, but it was just that City were just even better. And, you know, with their drop-off, and they'd kind of lost heart. They sort of broke City's hearts, didn't they, by Christmas, and it was all over. I think they can do it again. I know I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I don't see any reason why Liverpool is going to stop.
We'll come on to that in just a second. But I thought 3 consecutive Premier League titles for Manchester City would be too much. Why do you feel they just kind of fell away? Couldn't live with Liverpool.
Well, there was injuries to key players. Kevin De Bruyne got injured. It's difficult to keep that level, and that level was so relentless for City. But when you look at Liverpool's performances over the last 2 seasons, they've been the most consistent team in the world, I think. Consistently, they didn't win it. They just got pipped by Man City the previous season, so they had
won the Champions League, didn't they?
Yeah, they won the Champions League, so they had some belief there. So you know, everything was geared to winning the Premier League title, and you know they won it at a canter, didn't they?
United finished 3rd. Just were they the best of the rest for you?
Only because of the final third, the form they hit. Because there was, as we saw in their positions from the first half of the league, there was a bit hit and miss, weren't they? Because we know they can play. But I think that was just a bit hot and cold. And to be fair, I thought Chelsea were going to get third. I know it's obviously very tight for them in the end, but to be fair, they're the two teams that I think will improve with this momentum. As long as they keep that going with the signings that certainly Chelsea have made, I think they could be knocking on the door next year. Not for the title, but in terms of for
getting
second,
closer and bridging that gap. I mean, great job that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did. What about the job Frank Lampard did? First season at Chelsea, second season in management, transfer ban, and the best player in the Premier League, let alone at Chelsea, went.
Yeah, it was an incredible job. Look, I think that the restart and the lockdown and the restart helped Chelsea and Manchester United. I've got to say, because the form going into the lockdown weren't necessarily great, but they had a chance to regroup, got the players back, and Frank Lampard qualifying for the Champions League. I'm sure that would have been his remit at the start of the season. Just qualify for the Champions League. He'd done that. Obviously got to the final of the FA Cup. Unfortunately, didn't get that across the line. But, you know, when you're ticking a lot of boxes, bringing a lot of young players through to the first team as well, I think he's done a fantastic job at Chelsea. And, you know, they've gone again in the transfer market, haven't they? So,
big time.
You know, they're going to be a strong one this season.
They are going to be exciting. Just at the bottom end as well, the Premier League lost Norwich, Watford and Bournemouth. What happened with them for you?
Well, I mean, Norwich just weren't good enough, were they? I mean, and I think that they kind of took the hit. They wanted to bring the money in. They weren't going to spend it. It's about securing the long-term future of the club. They'd kind of chucked money at it before and got themselves into a bit of trouble. I think Bournemouth hit a lot of injuries, and maybe what Eddie Howe was saying maybe just wore off on the players. They seemed to lose their attacking intent, and maybe that was down to some injuries that they had, but also just seemed to be a different Bournemouth, really, that didn't go after teams like they did previously. Watford, I think it was just a mess with the manager's situations. A couple of times I thought they'd sorted themselves out, and then made some rash. They always make sort of quick decisions on managers, but maybe that Pearson one was the mistake right at the end there, because something had clearly gone on. Because I feel like they had a better chance with him than without him, let's put it that way.
4 full-time bosses in less than 12 months is incredible there, isn't it? But good to see Leeds back in the Premier League after 16 years away.
Yeah, no, you're right. They're obviously a massive club. They've performed brilliantly in the Championship, so they deserve their shot again. But yeah, it's like I certainly know, being with you at West Ham, playing against them when they had a proper side. So in my memory, that was in the Champions League, weren't they, when they had Rio and all them boys. So yeah, it's a proper club, and they should be in the Premier League, I feel.
Yeah, we'll see what they do this season. Let's talk about this season and the big stories so far. None bigger than Lionel Messi. I know you got strong points
Strong
here,
views, Scott. I've got strong views about this.
Go on, let's go straight to it then.
Look,
is he going to be in the Premier League this season?
No.
Why? Because
Barcelona cannot afford to let Lionel Messi go. No amount of money can replace Lionel Messi for Barcelona. I've been lucky enough to be out there for an extended period and see home games, what happens in Barcelona. The amount of planes, private jets, and people flying in just to see Lionel Messi.
That's just your private jet.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. Just to see this guy play. The best player in the world. He's been there since he was a kid. I think it'll be sacrilege for Barcelona.
No one wants to see Lionel Messi, especially Barcelona fans, leave. But he's got a year left of his contract. Okay, the clause looks like it's not going to happen, and who can pay 700 million euros anyway? But there's a year left. If he's saying he doesn't want to play for Barcelona anymore, we know what it's like in the modern day player, even more so with someone like Lionel Messi. Are you saying there can't even be an arrangement with Barcelona where they realise that, what Ronald Koeman's like?
Yeah.
He could turn around and say, do you know what, Messi, your privilege is already over. You're going to sit on the bench.
Good.
Messi on the bench.
Suffer. So, listen, Scott, you've suffered. Glen, you've suffered. I'm sure you've even suffered watching some football. I've suffered. It happens to the modern day footballers.
Not to Lionel Messi.
It will happen because he's suffering now. He's not even going into training. So he's suffering
because he's making a point.
Yeah, he's making a point, but he doesn't have a leg to stand on. He's under contract, Scott.
Glen, how do you say it?
I'm in some agreement. I think the overall picture, I think it's a smokescreen to get certain people off the board that he doesn't want there. Because we know, look, as a player, if you sign for Barcelona and don't get on with Messi, you're out the door a year later. So he's that powerful that if he doesn't like certain people, they're not going to be around for long. So I think he's sort of playing on his power in terms of saying, I want to leave to maybe get board member A, B and C.
But Ronald
out.
Koeman's even come in and said your privileges are over. The new manager has come in and said that.
Yeah, but that's probably just to...
He won't be the manager for long.
Well, this is it.
He's not going to be there
It
long.
might be the shortest ever Barcelona manager, if that's the case. What do you think, Mark?
I think that Koeman put his sort of size 10s in it with that, you've got no privileges and getting rid of Luis Suarez, who is, best friends with Messi. Even if you get rid of Suarez, I think you have to do it face to face, and show respect to somebody that has been a really top player for Barcelona. So just give him a phone call and say you're not wanted anymore. I think that would have, maybe that was a point he was making to Messi as well, that, he's calling the shots. But if I was the Netherlands, I don't think I'd be filling that vacancy that they've got, because he could be back by the time the Euros start. Because you don't want to be, you can't be the coach or the president that loses Messi. So I feel like he'll stay. I'm not quite as strong maybe as what Kev is there, who's so bullish, but I just feel like it might be a little bit too expensive even for City.
But do you not think even if without the get-out clause of, as I say, 700 million euros, no one's going to pay that. He's got a year left. He says to the manager, do you know what, I'm not going to play. Do you honestly think that Ronald Koeman would put him on the bench for almost a year? Or do you think that the club would turn around and say, look, we've got to do something here, even if it's £100 million plus a few players?
The problem you've got, Scott, that Barcelona have got, is Lionel Messi finished top in all categories in the league last season. Top goal scorer, top assists, top chances created, top of everything. Top dribbles.
Top team maker.
Top everything. Everything. I mean, top masseur. So losing that, whoever you're going to bring in,
But they're going to lose him now or in a year?
Yeah, but losing him in a year allows you to plan. This is the problem. Because remember, Barcelona, the season's gone on longer than they would have hoped. And he's left them in the lurch. If you get rid of him now, you are left in the lurch. What business can you really do to build that team? They haven't got the money that they used to have.
Well, that's the point, though, isn't it? They haven't got the money to rebuild.
Yeah, so you don't let him go. You don't let your star man go. And I could tell you this much. If Lionel Messi thinks he's not going to come out of this unscathed, he's got another thing coming, because you cannot, no player, I know Lionel Messi's arguably the best player ever. He will hurt his legacy at Barcelona if he continues on this path.
How do you see it ending up? And let's speak hypothetically then, even if we don't really believe it's going to happen. What would it be for the Premier League to have Lionel Messi in it? What would it be like for Manchester City to have Lionel Messi in their side?
Well, like Kev says, he's the best player ever. So I'm sure City would do whatever they could possible to get him away. But whereas in the past, City will go and get their men and they, spend X amount of money and put players on X wages, I don't think that's the same argument or fight with Messi. We all know he's a super wealthy guy. He loves his football, and that goes back to the Barca bit. I don't think him himself won't want to sit on the bench for a year. And I don't think that'll ever happen anyway, because they will have to come to an agreement. They'll either get him out now, or he will get the people he wants out, and then he'll play and it'll all be hunky-dory and move on. Privilege
not over.
No.
We shall wait and see.
No.
Looks like Donnie Van Der Beek is going to go to Manchester United, £40 million. People are saying he's worth double.
Yeah, I don't think he's worth double. I mean, when you look at the price that the Barca paid for De Jong, I'd say that De Jong's a better player than Van Der Beek. I find it quite interesting because they've already got Pogba and Bruno Fernandes that play in those kind of attacking sort of central midfield positions. So I was just wondering I was trying to work out what Solskjaer is thinking about doing with this team. I still can't work it out. Is Pogba going to have to play more defensive? Well, Van Der Beek has played more defensive for Ajax. I mean, but it's one thing doing that in the Eredivisie, quite another trying to do it in the Premier League. So I think he's a good player. I think he improved United's squad, and I think that was an issue. Some of those United squad players, Solskjaer didn't like rotating because he didn't trust some of them coming in. But actually, central midfield wasn't the area that I felt that United were desperately short. He's a good player. I don't see him taking United to that next level, sort of on his own. Anyway,
you're nodding there, Kev. And where do you see him fitting in?
I think the squad is so important now, squad football, and Manchester United have got a good squad, but the quality in that squad isn't quite as strong as you look at some of the others. I mean, you look at Chelsea now, you look at Manchester City. I think Liverpool are finding that out now, that they're going to have to probably beef that squad up a little bit. Maybe not start all the games, but a lot of these clubs are going for, 4 trophies? So you're going to need to be able to utilise that squad, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's realising that.
What do you make on Liverpool at the moment? Perhaps Thiago Alcantara is going to come in. We don't know.
No.
Do they need to bring him in and maybe even more?
I'd like to see him go, to be honest, because I think they do miss that. It sounds silly, but that magic man, like the Coutinho, because we all know when the front three are firing, they're almost impossible to stop. But you can't rely on that the whole time. I think they need a problem player in midfield that causes the opponents more of an issue, so they can't just concentrate on the front three. And look, it's hard to sort of improve on that 11 when they've just done what they've done to that league.
Thiago probably would though, wouldn't he?
Well, I think he would, but then dripping down to the bench, you're then strengthening the bench and stuff like that. Anyway, as you can't repeat that when you're two injuries away from weakening the team. So I think he's a sort of player I'd like to go, and I think it'd be close, to be honest.
In terms of Man City, what do you think of their dealings so far? And listen, we've still got, as we speak, over a month to go before the window finishes.
I like Torres. I think he'll. That pace was one thing I felt that maybe City lacked when with Sane wasn't playing. That maybe that obviously you've got Sterling on one side, but to have it on both flanks, that potential to cause problems, I think would have, because Mahrez likes to get the ball and he slows it down a bit. He's got his own qualities, but I feel like he'll definitely add something to them on the counter attack. Nathan Ake, I think he's okay, but he's left-footed. Laporte's left-footed. I wasn't quite sure how you don't see too many left-footed centre-back partnerships around, so I don't know if maybe he's thinking back three or if it's just about the whole squad thing. But I still feel like I'd like to see another centre-back in there. Koulibaly's been linked. I think that would be the level of centre-back that they need to stop bleeding those really silly goals that they concede, and lose matches that they shouldn't. That was probably their major issue, really, wasn't it? What about Chelsea? Splashing the cash after the transfer ban last season?
Yeah, well, Frank's pockets were bulging, weren't they? It was an embarrassment, really, that they couldn't, make any signings. But now you can see what he's doing. The way they finished, obviously, the FA Cup final and stuff. Defensively, Chelsea looked a little bit suspect at times. So, what does he do? He goes out and he strengthens the attack. He's going to go on. I'm sure there's going to be more incomings.
Well, Thiago Silva's signed, isn't it? I mean, he's 35, isn't he? He's not a long-term problem, is he? But
he's a real good
Very
player.
Good.
Real good player. He's a leader as well.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I think Rudiger started to have a little bit of issues come the end of the season. But I could see Silva and Rudiger probably playing with some of the youngsters coming in when needed. So I think it's good business done by Chelsea, but I think there's going to be a few more players coming in.
How do you see our old club doing with the signings they've made?
Chelsea? Yeah, as you guys touched on it before, I think Lamps has started brilliant. I think he's done it all the right way, not tried to do anything too quick. And obviously it's exciting with the players that they get coming in. And I know Christensen, someone like him working with Thiago Silva even if it's for a year, he's only going to learn more. And JT tipped Christensen to be the next JT, didn't he, back in the day? And we haven't seen that yet. But someone like him, even if you have someone like Silva there just for 18 months, he just rubs off on everyone. And it's just going to keep him going in the right direction.
What do you think now about the subs rule as well?
I understand why they went to 5, when they were playing every 72 hours, and we alluded to it earlier that the players weren't fit, and so I think it made sense. I don't really see the need for it now, and I think every sort of water breaks, 5 subs just feels like they're trying. I can just see a situation in 5 years' time where we're suddenly playing 4 quarters, or there's a TV ad break in the middle of this. So I just think. I think maybe 4. There could be an argument for 4 subs in time, because it wasn't that long ago. It was only 1, and then 2 and 3, and football's getting quicker. But from 3 to 5 just feels like a really big unnecessary jump.
How do you see it, Jono?
Yeah, no, I prefer it at 3. I think it strongly favours the big squads when it comes to 5. because you guys know that you could be playing against someone rapid for 70 minutes, they go off and you think, no, thank God for that. But then if they've got someone just as good coming on, it doesn't
I used to
have the
think that
same
my whole
effect.
career.
Right? Do you know what I mean? But there was a stat to say that the 5 subs helped, well, they had more goals from the lower end of the table, but I think you can put a line through that because you're making a sub in a different situation. Yeah. Like City will make a sub to, shore up the win because they're probably winning 1-0 or whatever. Whereas the guys battling to stay in the league, they're probably losing, so they're chucking the strikers on. Yeah. So of course they're going to have more goal interaction. So I think that's one of those rubbish stats that you can put a line through, but I'd like to see it go back to 3.
Just going back to the transfers and club as well, I didn't ask you about Arsenal, of course.
Yeah, well, thank you. Scott. Look, Arsenal, we've got no money, real money. We've got to sell before we could really buy. The Partey situation has been going on all close season so far. He wants to come to Arsenal, can't afford him at the moment, so we've got to get some bodies out. But Mikel Arteta's doing a really good job. He's making some of the players who were questioned better as we look at them now. And, it's winning the Community Shield against Liverpool at the weekend. He's going to give the squad
and the FA Cup.
Well, the FA Cup was obviously back in the last season.
It was only a month ago.
Yeah, but do you know what, Scott? Things get forgotten very quickly in football. And you have to move on, and you're playing the champions, and they're probably only 2 players off their full squad. Arsenal have got even Saliba, who's the new signing from last season, who was at Saint Etienne. He was on the bench. There was a lot of players missing, and they went up, won the trophy. So you say to yourself, great. If you can really bolster that team, you've got a real good chance of. They've got to be thinking of challenging for that top 4. That has to be the priority because Champions League football is what they need.
Okay, let's liven it up, shall we, and get your tips. Who's going to win the Premier League? Who wants to go first? How many horse race is it?
2-horse race between City and Liverpool. And I can't see past Liverpool right now. And it kills me to say it, Scott. Let me tell you, it hurts me being an ex-Everton captain, Everton man. But they've just been so consistent. Can they keep that consistency? We said, City couldn't do it 3 times in a row. I know Liverpool have only won it once, but they've been the most consistent over the period of 2 years. So I'm going to go for the champions right now. I'm going to go for Liverpool, but it won't surprise me if City done it.
Jono?
So I'm going to be a bit tactical. I'm going to go. I think City will be a lot stronger than they were last year because if Liverpool win it, they're not going to win it by the 23 points. I think we all agree on that. But I'm going to go City. Because then if I'm wrong, I'll be over the moon because it's only a 2-horse race.
Yeah, it is a 2-horse. So you're Liverpool, City.
I think at the odds, City are odds on, and I don't think they deserve to necessarily be odds on. I think that there's a lot factored into expected goals, and City, even though they were so far behind Liverpool, still came out on top on that metric. But there were problems with Manchester City last season in terms of defending and conceding really soft goals, and they didn't iron out those problems. Even when they played Lyon in the Champions League, they've conceded 3 times to them. And I think you look at sort of Fernandinho, big influence on the team, another year older. They didn't properly replace Kompany from the season before. David Silva has departed. Aguero, another one. I mean, still a fantastic striker, but not getting any better at the age he's at now. So,
not sure he can.
Well,
fair point.
I mean, I still feel like he picks up injuries as well. And Gabriel Jesus is a good player, but I always feel more comfortable betting Man City when Aguero's in there. I just feel like he's going to take the chances. And Liverpool, they haven't obviously made any big signings yet, but I think if they keep Brewster, I think that's a big up on Origi in terms of that front 3. Yeah, I thought it's Sheffield United. Swansea, and he's been linked with Sheffield United. Yeah. I'd like to see Liverpool keep him, and I think Naby Keita can come in and have an influence on the midfield. He's been injured a lot. I just don't feel like there's a massive gulf between City and Liverpool. I feel like it's much closer than the odds suggest.
I think it's a 2-horse race. So you're going for Liverpool. I think it's a 2-horse race. I think the same as you, Jono. I mean, it's going to be really tight. I think it's just hard for Liverpool to do back-to-back what they're doing. Yeah. We're still a month off the end of the transfer window, so we'll see. But you just get the feeling that City are going to add. Liverpool won't add as much. I don't think they'll have the bit between their teeth, to be honest with you, so I'm going for City. But it's amazing, we're all going for a 2-horse race. What about then the other 2 places in the top 4? You go, Jono.
Well, to be honest, I actually think it's going to be the same top 4. I think Chelsea will reverse it with United, because I actually think we're getting back to the point where it is back to the top 4 as opposed to when it was, top 6 or even maybe 7. I think Chelsea, as we mentioned earlier, they have strengthened and they're going to improve definitely. I think United, if they start the way they finished last season, then they're going to be playing a big role. And I just think Arsenal and Tottenham at the moment, they're just not near them. And even between, the 2-horse race, even them 2 are miles away from 3rd and 4th.
Kev?
I'm going to have to disagree with Glenn. I think as an Arsenal man, Arsenal have to get in. They have to. Signing a Willian, who was one of Chelsea's best players, to be honest. And I think he's going to make a real difference. And I don't think Mikel Arteta's quite finished yet. They've shored up that defence, which was as leaky and porous as you can get. So I think Arsenal have to do it. Do you know what? I think Manchester United's going to miss out. I really do. I think Chelsea are going to finish 3rd, Arsenal finish 4th, and Manchester United are going to finish 5th.
What, Spurs finishing bottom then? Going down
relegated, they might finish 6th or 7th.
Maybe slightly with his Arsenal hat on there, but we'll
for sure.
We'll see.
For sure.
What do you think?
I'm glad Glen's in the middle. I'm a Spurs fan. I agree, though. I think Arsenal can get into the top 4. I'd be surprised if Chelsea didn't, given the signings that they've made. I mean, they've improved every area of their team. But Werner will score goals, pretty sure of that, and is an improvement on Giroud and Tammy Abraham. Kai Havertz, when he signs, he's like the next golden boy of German football. We've already mentioned how good Thiago Silva could be just on his old influence on the team. I'm sure they'll get a goalkeeper that can save some shots, because Kepa had some issues.
They do need to sort that out.
Get in the way of some shots.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think though with Manchester United, if you have a look at their record since Ferguson left, it's not great. Like they've missed out, I think, 4 of the 7 years in terms of top 4. And I was worried when Arteta came in at Arsenal, because I knew that Unai Emery had kind of like a ceiling on where he could take Arsenal. It wasn't, as a Spurs fan, it wasn't that great. And, you knew they'd get to A level, but Arteta could be something, better than that. And look at the fact that he's beaten Liverpool, he's beaten Manchester City, he's beaten Chelsea. These were games that Arsenal were supposedly used to struggling, against the big teams. He's got, with Aubameyang and all the firepower, he seems to have sorted out the defence. I could see them at the odds as well. I could see them pushing United really close.
Okay. John, I'm with you. Chelsea 3rd, United 4th. What about Europe?
I think that United will finish 5th and Tottenham 6th. I think that you have a look at. Leicester had their opportunity last year and didn't really take it. Did at the end, and replacing Chilwell's not going to be particularly easy. I don't think. Wolves could be interesting, but I just don't like the vibes coming out of there, really. Nuno hasn't signed his new contract. Maybe as a real surprise, I think Leeds will have a good season, but probably not enough to be top 6.
What do you think, Jono?
I'll probably go Arsenal and either Leicester or Tottenham. I think Tottenham's an interesting one because on paper they've got some fantastic players, but they just don't seem to play like that.
And on paper they've got a fantastic manager.
Well, exactly, yeah. And even the signings he's making now, they're not. We're so used to seeing Mourinho going out and getting the best players out of every market, and they're names that the dressing room is like excited about. But no disrespect to the players he's signing, but they're not doing that. They're sort of. It's almost like he's trading now. Like, oh, he's cheap for this money, or he's cheap. Whereas normally you just go and get the main man and pay over the odds for him, or the value for him. So it's interesting to see how he copes with that because he's never had to do that before. But I think they will improve. But Arsenal are going in the right direction. I just think for one season the gap's too far to get in the top 4. So I'll go with them to go close, but I think it'd be between, I'd say, Leicester and Tottenham.
You're going to say Everton, aren't you? You said Arsenal top 4. You're going to say Everton now.
No, this is what I'm going to say regarding Everton because, Everton are a mixed bag. If Carlo Ancelotti can recruit the right players for that centre midfield. I think that's where their season is going to be make or break. If they get Doucouré, they get Allen, and they get James Rodriguez, now that Everton all of a sudden take a different shape because they got goals in them in Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. We know that. Both of them scored together was over 30 goals. But it's that central midfield. That central midfield was a little bit weak. Now they need a bit of bite in there and a bit of creativity. With those three, they get that. And you know, going to Goodison is still hard work. It still is hard work. So can Everton do it? They could, but I'm going to go for Spurs and United.
That must have been hard for you to say Spurs.
No, listen, Spurs are a good side.
No,
and I've got to say
yeah.
that Spurs are a good side. And I don't want to be disrespectful because I've got a lot of friends who support Spurs. But I just don't think they're quite of the level that they were.
Yeah. Not that long ago.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Top scorer tips. Jamie Vardy, top scorer in the Premier League last season. What do you think?
I don't fancy him to repeat it. He got very hot last year and was like banging them in, and eventually it slowed down, but he'd already got himself into a lead. I think Aubameyang's always a safe each way bet. Even though he's playing off the left, that doesn't seem to impact his sort of goal scoring potential. I would prefer him down the middle, but he seems happy enough to score from out there. 22 goals in each of the last 2 seasons. If I'm expecting Arsenal to improve a bit, I see no reason why he will slow down at sort of a much bigger price. I thought that Kane has his injury problems at Spurs, and so Son, I think he was 4th in the shots on target list last season. He got injured as well, but he might be somebody that could run into a place at sort of much bigger odds. But of those are the fancy runners, I like Aubameyang.
Should ask a striker. What do you think?
Aubameyang. It's got to be. It's got to be Aubameyang. Arsenal are going to improve. Arsenal are going to not concede as many goals. So if you're not conceding as many, that means you're going to be on top on the front foot and putting the opposition under pressure. And there's no better finisher in the Premier League than Aubameyang right now. So I see him being the top man.
What do you think, Jono? Who's your kind of one you'd put your money on? Do you have an outside bet at all?
Outside bet. It'd probably be getting very optimistic, but Werner maybe. Obviously we've seen that he can finish. I know this is a different beast in terms of the Premier League for sure, but with Chelsea, the way they go forward and attack, he's going to get a handful of opportunities. So as long as he has the same composure in the Premier League, then I think he will get a handful. But I agree with these lads. I think Aubameyang's going to be tough to beat, but if at the right price, I think it could be worth a few quid.
Okay, guys, great stuff. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it. Absolutely flew by that half hour, didn't it? But that's the end of the top end of the Premier League. When we come back, we'll be talking about the relegation markets. And of course, remember, if you are planning on having a bet, please bet responsibly.